Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So today we are going to continue from where we stopped yesterday, but a recap of what we talked about yesterday. So yesterday we introduced the career as a data analyst and also talked about Power BI, a tool for data analysis. I also talked about how we can get our data in Power BI, the various data connectors we have in Power BI, and also how I explained the interface of the Power Query. So the icons and the windows or the panes you have inside Power Query. So today we are going to be transforming our data and make it readily available for us to start analyzing inside our Power BI. So I'm going to be using Power Query today to transform our data. So each of the queries, we are going to be transforming each of those queries. After transforming these queries, we are going to be loading it into Power BI. So we loaded, as of yesterday, we loaded 5 queries: products, geographical details, manufacturer details, sales details, that is for USA, and also have international sales details. So now, for out of the products, yesterday we renamed it to from product table to named it to products. So you can either rename it here from the query settings, or you can just double click on it here, double click on the query, and you can rename it from this place. So now if you look at our products query now, so let me just off the column distribution and column profile. Okay. So now if you look at our product ID now, so this is the column that is containing the IDs of our products. And also, you can see the icon is showing that it's a numerical variable. So I'm going to leave that as it is. Then also, if you look at the product, also, you see we can have product name here, also have the segment a product belongs to. So what we want to be doing now, we want to divide this particular variable, or split this particular column into 2. So that we're going to be having the name on one side, and also have the word segment. That's the product name on one side, and also have the product segment on another side. So currently now they are into 2, because we will be analyzing these variables as separate entities. So we want to make them into 2 columns. So now I'm going to be splitting this particular column. So now under our home tab now, you can see an option here called split column. And you can see an option here called split by delimiter. So this splits values in this selected column based on a specified delimiter. So now the delimiter we have currently now is the pipe operator now. So we're going to be splitting this column now by the pipe. And you can also access this split column by right-clicking on it. So when you right-click on it, you are going to see the option here, split column. And you have various ways of splitting a column. You can either split by delimiter. This is like special characters. You also have by number of characters. You want to be splitting by 2 characters, or also have by positions. You have by lowercase to uppercase. So these are various ways of splitting a column. But now I'm going to be using the by delimiter option. So I'm going to click on by delimiter. And when I click on that now, you see a tab, a window is going to be opened for me, showing me giving me the option to specify my delimiter. So now you can see by default, it is showing me a delimiter of an hyphen. So, but my delimiter in this case now is not an hyphen, it is a pipe. So I'm going to remove this and put a pipe. Now, I'm now going to click on OK. So by clicking on OK now, you see we have 2 separate columns now from a single column, splitted by that particular pipe. Now, what is left for me now is just to rename it. I'm going to double click on the column to rename. I'm going to be calling this let me just call this the name of the product. And I'll call these the segments. So I can just even change this to products. So you can see now I've already split these 2 columns. So if you check your apply steps now, you're going to see particular steps which you don't have before. So you can see split column by delimiter. You can see change type. After splitting, it changed the type. So you can also see rename column. So these are steps which has already been applied. By clicking on these crosshairs, you can delete a particular step. But you click on rename columns now, my column name is going to go back to the way it was before. It has already taken me back to the previous step. So I can go back, I can go a step back by clicking on these crosshairs. It's going to remove a particular step I apply on a query. If I click on change type 1, you can see that the type of that particular column has been changed. If I also click on the cross of split column by delimiter, you can see that I go back to the way, to the single column I had earlier on. So now let me just apply it back now, split column by delimiter and give the pipe. So this is going to be okay. So I'm going to be calling this my product, and I'll be calling this my segments. And you can see we're also okay with the variable data type. So you can see now it is characters. So where is it? Okay, text. You can see it. It is text. So they are both text. So we are okay with this now. Then we also go to that of category. Category now. So the person that was actually inputting this data, the way the person actually inputted data was that after, since some of the products, some products belong to a single category. So after writing the category for a particular product, then any other product under it, the person skipped it. So just like you left it as a blank value. So any product you see under a product that was given category, like this particular row 1 now, we're having the category of what? Mix. So now the person decided that, okay, I don't need to be writing the category of other ones since they all belong to the same category. So just like this symbol, when you are writing, instead of repeating, you just leave it as a blank. So when you also go to another category, rural, the same thing also takes place. So now, but we cannot make do with this when we load our data into Power BI. So we need to make sure that each particular cell has its category. So now we can use find and replace, but if we are to use find and replace, you know we have various categories in this place. If you check our column, our profile now, we're having so you can see we're having 4 categories. So using a find and replace, since all of them is null, it's not going to pay us. So what we are going to do now, we are going to use go to transform, and we use a icon called fill. So this fill either fills by down or by up. So filling by down, it is going to fill all these null values by the value up, by the immediate value above it. So now anywhere we're having mix, any null value under it is going to be filled by mix. Then the next non-empty cell, for example now, which is rural, then it is going to fill it by what? Rural. So this is what fill down is going to do for us. So I'm going to click on fill down. I can see that what all those null has been filled by the value above it. When you go to rural, then any null value under rural is going to be filled with rural. So now let me uncheck my column profiling. Okay, my own tab. So now we're already done with the category and also have the data type as text. So now back also to the manufacturer ID. Manufacturer ID is also as a whole number. We have no problem with this. So now also to the price. So it's also having the inside the price variable. Now we have both the currency and the price together. So when we want to perform arithmetic operations or mathematical operations, this is going to be a problem for us. So we need to split this column into 2, where we have a single column of the currency and also have a single column of the that is the price. So now earlier on we was split by column. That is splitting column by delimiter, but also have other options which you can use, like column from example. So I'm going to click on the add column tab now. You can see for the column from examples icon. So the way the column from example works is that you give an example and it creates a column for you based on that particular example. So I'm going to click on column from examples now. I can see my data, my query here. You can see all my query here. I can see a space that is telling me to give the value of my new column. So now I can just, for example, now since I want to create a column now based on the price, so I can just change this now to, let's just give it as MSRP. Now I'm going to give an example now inside this particular row. So any example I give now, it is going to automatically generate all other rows for me. So let's say, for example, I give an example of 41. So you can see now it detects that I'm creating a new column based on this particular price column. You can see that the values we now have are related to this, are related to the values we have under price. So now what I want to do now is that I want to only fish out the numeric value and leave out the currency. So I'm going to be giving the full, that is for the first row, I'm going to be giving the price, excluding the currency. So you can see that all other rows too are having only the price excluding the currency. And I'm going to click on OK. So this is another way of splitting a column. So you can see now already I have it excluding the currency. Now I also want another column. I also want another column for the currency. I'm also going to click on column from examples. And when I click on column from examples, I change this I'm going to change it to currency. And changing it to currency, I'm going to give this as USD, and automatically to generate USD for others. So you can see, okay, we now have the column called USD. And if I also want to use the other method I did earlier, I can just use split by delimiter. I'm going to right click and split column by delimiter. In this scenario now, my delimiter automatically detects that it is a space. So you know that you can see that our delimiter is a space. So which means if I split this column by a space, it's going to create 2 columns for me. So now, since I already have the price and I also have the currency, why I didn't name this price was because that we have a column called price, and it will not Power Query can't create two columns with the same name. So I just have to delete this particular one. It's already redundant. I right click on it, click on remove, and I'm going to double click on this and name it price. So this is already our price and this is our currency. So regarding this particular query now, we are done with it and this is good to go. So we go for the next query now, which is our geographical details. So I'm going to click on geographical details. Now, if you look at our geographic details now, you can see there are some rows which are redundant, which are imported from Excel, and we don't need these rows. You can also see that our columns, the names on our columns are not the name of the variables which we have in our query. So what we want to do first now is able to rename our query to geography, industry to geography. Then after doing that now, we need to remove these two rows, these top two rows, because we don't need them. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to click on the Home tab, and you can see an icon called to remove rows. We have remove rows, we have keep rows. So in this scenario now, I want to use what remove rows. And which rows are we removing? Are we removing the top or the bottom rows? So it is the top rows we're interested in now. So I'm going to click on remove top rows. So, and there are two, the rows we want to move are two, then I click on OK. So we are not done still. You can see that our column names is actually a row, and we don't want that. So I'm going to click on this particular row and click on the option, which is under the Home tab, use first rows as headers. I'll click on use first row and headers, and you can see that our column name now is having the appropriate names. So now all the steps we have been applying, even if you check the previous query, you can see all of them under our apply steps. So we're going to be accessing all the steps you have applied. So also be careful when you're removing a step, because some steps are dependent on previous steps. So by just removing a step, you can actually break the chain and cause error inside your transformation. So now I'm going to, for that of the zip now, some country zip codes are alphanumeric. So we can't leave this zip data type as a numeric, let's say as a whole number. So what we want to do now is we're going to convert it to a text. And it's going to ask us, do you want to replace the current? Yes, we want to replace the current and not add a new step. So I'm going to click on replace current. So you can now see that my zip now is a text. And also for the city, is a text. It's okay, we're okay with that. So don't worry about these values we're having empty and valid, because some of these variables will not be using it. So these are geographical details. So we don't have the values of some city. And also if you check that of the, okay, even for the region also. So there are some regions that are actually empty. So we'll just leave it blank since we don't have the details for some of them. So we can see that all those variables are text. And also I want to show something. When you click on this drop down arrow like a pivot table in Excel, you'll be able to see all the values you have in a particular variable. So currently now, because it's profiling for top 1,000 rows, that's why I'm only seeing the values in the top 1,000 rows, which is only Mexico and USA. If I want to see for the other rows, I need to click on load more. So when I click on load more, it's going to show me all the values I have. You can now see that in this particular variable now, I have null values. So we can just say we have empty values now. So now these values now are going to be causing us problem if we are to load it into Power BI. So I'm now just going to remove empty, because we're likely going to be using this particular column variable as a key later on. So let's just remove the empty. So by removing empty now, when we go back and check the filter, you can now see that we don't have, and I click on load more. So you can now see we don't have null and blank values again. So now I already cleaned the geography table. Now the next, and also you notice that most of the steps you applied, you see a code showing this is called the M language. This is also another way. Instead of using the click and point interface, you can also just type it. You can type the code which is going to transform your query for you. So going back to the manufacturer now, I'm going to double click on this also and just change this M to an uppercase. So also for the manufacturer, also we're having similar problem to that of the geography table. So it's what we're going to do now, we can see that the bottom rows that we're having now, we have null values and also some redundant rows. We're actually interested in the top 3 rows. So just like we did also in the geography, you can go to remove rows, and instead of removing top rows now, I'm going to be removing bottom rows. So the bottom rows want to be removing at 3, so I'm going to click on OK, and you can see we have already deleted the bottom 3 rows, which are redundant. And also we can also use keep top rows. So let me remove this step I applied. Can use keep top rows also. Keep top rows, which are the 3 rows I'm interested in, and click on OK. So you can see also have the same thing. This also have the same thing as we did when we remove the bottom rows. Also, if you look at it now, you can see that the column names we are having now are our row names. So we want to make this what row names to be column names instead of row names, which they are now. So we're going to be transposing the matrix, just like you're transposing the table. We're going to be changing, making the rows to be columns and the columns to be rows. So I'm going to click on transform, and you click on the transform transpose tab. You can now see that our columns are now rows and our rows are now columns. Still, we still have to make the first row to be our column titles. So I'm going to go back to the home now. And when I go back to the home, I click on use first rows as headers. So you can now see I've already done transforming the manufacturer query. So now the next query now we're going to is for the sales. So you can see this is for the sales of what? USA. So we're also going to be transforming this. For the product ID, we're okay with this. We have no problem. For the date also, we have no problem. Then for the zip, I told that zip shoes, some zips are alphanumeric, so it needs to be in text. I'm going to click on the icon now and we'll click on text. So it's going to tell me to replace current, which I'm going to do. And also, if you look at the units also, the units also is a whole number. But for the revenue now, we're going to click on the data type and change it to fixed decimal number. So changing it is going to tell me, do I want to replace the current data type? I will say yes, I want to replace it. So the difference between this particular fixed decimal number and decimal number is that when it goes into Power BI automatically detects this as a currency. So it's just usually used for pricing values. When you have columns which is related to like a pricing or like a just like a price or a monetary column, you are going to be using the fixed decimal number. And also it's approximated for you into 2 decimal points. So for the zip now, from our column quality now, you can see we have no problem with the zip. So if I'm to put it now into entire data set, it's going to be taking long because there's a lot of, we're having over 1 million rows in this particular sales code, which is for USA. So now let's go to that of the international sales. So when we go to that of international sales now, so remember now, yesterday I talked about this was the query in which we merged like 6 files together, 6 country files together to form a single query. So now we have a redundant column here, source.name. I'm going to right click on this and remove it. So there's one thing I want you to take note of now. Let me click on the country and click on load more. So let me only select for that of Canada. And okay. So when you check out the zip code of Canada, you can see that we're having what? Error, and errors. So Canada and I think Japan are both having alphanumeric zip code. And currently now the zip code is a whole number. And you know a alphabet cannot be a whole number. So that's why we're having this error. So what we need to do now with this international sales now is actually to, let me remove the filtering and remove clear filter. So now I'm going to remove this word change type because it was Power Query that automatically changed the type of that column because normally the zip code should be what? Or a whole number, but because there was the alphanumeric value there, it's just assumed that all of them was numeric, and where it was alphanumeric, it took it as an error. So I'm going to remove the change type now. Change type step, delete. So I've already removed the change type. So you can now see that what we're having this is a combination of a numeric, a number, and also a text. So now if you check that of Canada back now, so let's check that of Canada now. So you can now see the zip code of Canada. You can now see it's R3E M6H. You can see it. So it has already given us what the way, it has already removed the errors and given us what the zip code. So this is something that's very important that one needs to be taking note when you are working with some kind of, because sometimes Power Query automatically gives a column type for you. So you need to check it and see if your values are present before you can now continue. So what I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to clear this filter. Let me just remove the filter rules. So I'm going to clear my filter now, and for the zip code now, I'm going to make the zip code to be a text. I'll click on text. Then our product ID is going to be a whole number. Then date is going to be a date. So we're going to change date to the date column type. And also unit is going to be a whole number. And revenue, because we're dealing with price here, is going to be a fixed decimal, not to be a fixed decimal number. Then our country is going to be a text. So let's see our column quality. Okay, this is okay. Our column quality is already on. So we can see our column quality now. So okay, this is actually for the top 1,000 rows. So we can now actually view for the, it's going to take long. We want to view for the entire data set because it's actually large. So we just leave it as it is now. So, but you can see that international sales is for other countries, like 6 countries. Why? So you can see that international sales is for, I think, 6 countries. So we're talking about 6 countries here. Why for sales is for what? US. So we don't want to be having a lot of queries where they're even sharing like similar variables. Since this is for US and this is for 6 other countries, why don't we just combine this particular query and this query to form a single query, then we just load it into Power BI to make our work much more easier. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to click on sales. So when I click on sales, when you check the combined group now under the home tab, you can see we have 3 options there. We have match queries, we have append queries, and we have combined files. Earlier on, when we combined those Excel sheets for various countries to form this international sales, that was combined files we used. But now what we want to do now is append queries, because we want to combine 2 queries together, but we want to combine them by the rows. It's just like having a row here. Imagine having row 1 to 4 here, and we're having another query 6 to 10 here. So we want to combine these 2 particular queries to form a single query, but by the rows. Why match queries is combining it by the columns. So now imagine I'm having a data here 1 to 4. I'm having 1 to 4, and I also have another data here 6 to 10. So I'm going to be combining 2 of them together, but by their columns. So maybe one of them is having the name of the student in the class, and the other one is having their age. Just say the one of them is having name and age. Then the other one is having their sex and their score in a particular exam. So by merging them together, I'm combining 2 of them by their columns. But appending is when I have 2 data, name, age, and sex of a student in one class, and name, age, and sex of students in another class. So yeah, I'm going to be using appending. I'm going to be combining them by their rows. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. I'm going to click on the sales and click on append queries. So by clicking on append queries now, it's telling me, do I want to concatenate or do I want to append 2 tables or 3 or more tables? I'm only interested in 2 tables. So I'm going to click on this option here. So table to append is going to be appending with the international sales. And I'll now click on OK. So by clicking on OK now, if you check the sales now, you can now see that it has already It has already appended 2 of them together. So let me show you that I already appended it. You click on this load more. So you can see all the values we are now having in this column. These null values that I'm looking at is for USA. Because in the US, in the sales query, we don't have a country column. That was why it's now give the value of null to all sales that belongs to USA. We are going to solve this now. So since we already have appended international sales with sales, we don't need this query. So instead of deleting it now, because if we delete it, it's going to affect this here. because they are both linked together. So I'm just going to right click on it and uncheck this enable load. So if we load it now into Power BI, it's not going to load international sales for us. You can now see that the name is already initialized. So I'll go back to the sales now and take care of these null values we're having under country. You can use find and replace. So by just right clicking, if I use find and replace value. So anywhere I see null, should replace it with what? USA. And I'll now click on OK. So you can see that what all the null values has already become what USA. I also have another option called conditional column. So let me remove this particular step. So if I go to my add column now, there's an option called conditional column. So I'm going to click on conditional column. So now, what is the name of the new column I want to create? The name of the new column is country name. I cannot name it country because we have a column called country. So it's going to cause confliction. So now I'm going to click on this drop down now of the column name. So which column name down to transform from? I'm transforming from the country column. So if country is equals to null, then the output should be what? USA. So this is what we are telling you to do. So that is this particular country now. Anywhere you see null, then create a new column for me with what? Output of what? USA. What if a particular value now in that column is not null? Then this is where we now say else. We what? Select a column, then just return the value of that particular what column, which is country. Then we click on OK. So you can now see that what country name now is what carrying what USA. So if I click on this now, we're going to see that we don't have any null values again. So you can see that we have no more what? Null values. So now I don't need this column. I'm going to right click and remove. So I'm going to rename this back to country. Then I'll click on this particular column type and I'll make it to be what? Text. So if you check our details, you can see we are okay. Our zip code is already in a text, and you can see our revenue is already in a, you can see our revenue is in fixed decimal number. So now what we want to do now, we're not going to be making use of all the dates, we're going to be making use of the previous 4 years. So I'm going to click on the dates. I'm going to click on this drop down to filter the dates. So in the previous 4 years, so I'm going to change this from days to years. So I'm actually filtering the dates now because currently now I mean like from 2015 now to 2022. I'm only interested in the previous 4 years. So I'm going to be giving 4 here and click on OK. So you can now see that it's already giving us data from 2020, 2021, 2022. So which is what? That's 4 years back. So that's including 2023. So this is like 4 years of data. So now we've already done transforming the sales. So what we want to do now, we go to our file and we click on close and apply. So it is going to close it now and also what? Apply the transformation we did. So is there any question on the what I just talked about now in the Power Query? Don't know is okay. It is not online. So the queries are large. So this is one of the reasons why it is taking time. I think it should be done any moment now. So already our queries already loaded. So now this is now the Power BI interface now. So currently now we already loaded our query. So now currently, if you look at it, we also have some tabs at the top left corner. We have file, home, insert, modeling, view, and also help. So the insert allows you to insert items into your canvas. So this is our canvas. This big space you're looking at is where you build your visuals. This is your canvas. You can use the insert to insert items into your canvas. The modeling, I'm going to explain modeling any moment from now. The view allows you to change the view, the interface of your screen. That's your Power BI, your Power BI interface. The help, if you need a help, you go to the help tab. And the file allows you to perform what file manipulations. So let me just go back to the home tab. You also see now we have a main pane here, which is called the canvas. We also have the visualization pane, which allows you to select visuals which you want to put on the canvas. And then we have the feeds. So this feed shows you all your what. Since we already have loaded our queries now, it shows you all the tables you are dealing with. And under each table, it also shows you the columns which you have under each particular table. So you can see all of them. So you click on this drop down in each particular table, you see all what's your table. They also have some icons here, which is the report. Currently on the report, this is where you build your reports and your visuals. Then we also have the data. So this is where you can see all your data. So since I already loaded in Power BI now, you can see all your data. So for the geography table now, you can see we have 176,000 plus rows. If you look at the manufacturer, we have 14 rows. If you look at the products, we have 2,412 rows. If you look at sales, we have 3 million rows. And don't forget, we filter this sales. So it's actually more than that. This is just for the past 4 years. So you can see we have 3 million plus of rows. And under each now, you can now see the table. So if you click on a particular, column, it's going to highlight that particular column in your table. So you can see the data which we have. Now we also have the modeling icon. So this is one of the most important things in Power BI. So when one needs constructing visual or reports, one needs to get the modeling right. So because you can see that some of these tables are related to each other. So some information are not in the some information now we don't have it on the sales. If we want information on our products, we need to go to the products table. If we want information on our manufacturer or where an item was bought, we need to go to the manufacturer and also need to go to the geography table. So this is why modeling is very important. So modeling is just the linking of these tables together, just relating these tables together. So just to make you to be able to extract useful insights when you're analyzing your data. So now I'm going to go back to the modeling, click on the modeling tab now. I'm going to click on this particular icon so that I'm going to see all my data. So currently now Power BI automatically detects relationship between manufacturer and products. And it also detects relationship between sales and products. So currently now this is a one-to-many relationship. So you can see this one signifies that a product ID is related to many transactions under sales. That's why we call it a one-to-many relationship. So now, since it's a one-to-many relationship now, I'm going to be I call this our data table because it contains the information which we are going to be analyzing. I will now call this lookup table, allowing you to look up for information regarding a particular data. So I'm going to bring this to the center and I'll take this. You can also see that the manufacturer is also having a one-to-many relationship to the product. So under the sales now, we can find information on our products from the products table. And under the products, we can find manufacturer details from the manufacturer table. But if you now notice, we have one table that is left out, which is the geography table. And why is that? This is because Power BI cannot automatically detect a relationship between two of them. But we can actually use zip code, since we have zip code here under sales, and we have zip code under geography. So let's try and see if we can link them together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag this to the zip here. So you can now see it is showing us a warning that this relationship has cardinality many to many. The reason why we're having this is because it is possible that in a country we cannot have two zip code, two locations with the same zip code. But what if in two different countries we have we have various locations in two different countries with the same zip code? So this is why it is telling us that we're having a many-to-many relationship. So we need to make this zip code unique. So that means we assign each particular zip code with its country. So if we have a column that is showing us such information, then we can now link that column to the sales table. So now I'm going to go back to my data table now, and I'm going to be creating a new column that is combining both the zip code and the country name. So I'm going to click on geography and I'll right click on it. I'll click on the new column. So I can right click and click on new column. I can just access it here. From you're going to see that if I'm to click, Normally, if I click on the reports tab, I'm not going to be seeing some tabs here. But when you click on the data, I'm going to be seeing table 2. So these kind of tabs are actually assigned to a specific, they are actually assigned to a specific tab. So now click on geography. I'm going to create a new column. You can see the option of creating a new column. So we call this calculated columns. Any column that doesn't come from your data source is called the calculated. And you created this in Power BI using the DAX. DAX is a language that allows you to perform calculations in Power BI. So any of these columns you created in Power BI using DAX, we call it the calculated columns. You can also create columns in the Power Query, just like we did earlier on, but those ones are not called calculated columns. So it's one that anyone you use DAX in creating, you call it a calculated column. So once create a new column now called zip code. So zip code now is going to be equal to geography. We are combining the zip. So the table name follows first, then what's in the square bracket is your column name. I can see that automatically say Power BI is going to hint you that, okay, you're talking of the geography table now, and which of the column do you want? So you can even use your cursor to select it, which I'm interested in the zip. We are going to be using the ampersand symbol now to combine it with a comma, then also with my country. So geography, country. So you can see now I have a new column called zip code. So now, even if I'm having a zip code of 68274 Mexico, and I'm having 68274 USA, it is going to be unique because of the country name is what's different. But if we're just going to rely on the zip column alone, it is going to be it's going to give us a many-to-many relationship. So this is one of the reasons why we are creating the zip code column. So now we're already done for that of the geography. Let me go to that of the sales. So that of the sales, I'm going to right click and new column. So I'm also going to call it zip code, or so to zip country. Sorry, I think I made a mistake here in this place. This is supposed to be zip country. So this is supposed to be not zip code. So since we are combining the zip code and the country together, then let's go to the sales back and rectify this. So a new column is going to be zip country. So unlike the geography where we are using what geography table, now is what the sales. So you can see when you type on sales, if you type on geography now, you can see it's going to be giving, because why it is not giving us geography is because we are currently on the table of what sales. But when you now type on sales, you're not going to be seeing all the columns on that sales. You can see it, zip, then and going to be having country. So going to be having country. So I think we're done with this. So you can now see we're having what zip country here. So I already was done with this. So now let's go back to our model and see if I can create a relationship between two of them. I'm going to now scroll down. I'm going to scroll down. You can see zip country here. You can also see zip country here. So I'm going to drag this to this. So you can now see we have a one-to-many relationship because we have unique zip code here. So in this, because this is geography table now. So each zip country that we're having now is only appearing once. But this is sales. So in a particular locality now, for example, USA, 5 transactions can happen in that place. So that is why you can see we're having a one-to-many relationship. So you can find out the geographical details of a particular transaction based on this link that we have here. So if you just click on it now, you can see it is showing us that what zip country is related to what zip country inside sales. So this is how modeling works in Power BI. You can even edit the details of your table. Like here now, you can see I can change the name of a column now from here. If I want it to be another name, I can just change it to this place. That is under the properties pane. So this is under the modeling view. You can see it. You can also give some like a description of your column. And you can see you can give details about your column under these properties. And you also have the list of your fields too in this place. So you can see it when you click on a particular table, it highlights it for you. If I click on manufacturer, it highlights it for you. If I also click on a particular column, it highlights it for you. So this is what you can have. These are the kind of things you can do under your modeling view. So now, let me go back now to my reports. So one of the reasons why I had to create that relationship earlier on was that if I don't have this relationship, I can't, let's say for example now, let me delete this relationship now. So let me just click on it. Delete. Yes. So let me delete this relationship now. So let me go back to my canvas now. And now if you look at it now, I'm going to create, for example, a bar chart. So under my visualization now, you can see a start column chart. I'll click on it. It's going to give me an empty start column chart. It's just going to give me like an empty graph. And you can see under the values, we have x-axis, we have y-axis, and we also have what, legend. So now under my geography now, I'm going to just bring a country to the x-axis. And I will now bring under my sales, I'll bring revenue to y-axis. So you can now see now I'm having what? All the countries, Australia, Canada, Germany, Japan, Mexico, Nigeria, and USA. All of them are having what? The same sales, which is a wrong visualization. And this is because we don't have a relationship between what? Between the country, between the geography table and also the sales table. So this is why it is important for you to create a relationship. So what we have to do now is to just link two of them together. So let me just scroll this up. We link two of them together. So after linking two of them together, now you go back, you can now see we're having the what's right in visualization. You can now see the total revenue that was made in what each country. So we have the sum of revenue for each country. You can see that of USA, you can see that of Australia, Japan, Nigeria, Germany, Mexico, and also that of what's Canada. So I think we're going to be stopping here for today. So tomorrow we start extracting insights from our visualization and see the kind of information which we can get from our visualizations.